Welcome into NHL Tonight. First shift for Thursday, October the 23rd, 2025. EJ Raddick here, joined by Mike Kelly in town. Good to see you here in studio.
Yes, usually I'm in the box.
That's right.
I am here in studio. Good to see you as well. We actually found out we were both at the Devils game last night.
We were both at the Rock last night.
We couldn't stand the thought of actually getting together in our personal time.
Well, you were working.
Yes.
And you were doing some work for, I guess, the FanDuel broadcaster in Minnesota.
Yes.
So they were playing it against the Devils last night.
You were in the seats.
I was in the seats just partying,
As you
moving it
do.
out, part of the Woo crew.
Yeah.
The Devils game. They got the Woo crew out there.
Yeah.
So, now, we had a good time last night at the game, but, yeah, we got to see an entertaining game last night. We'll get to it. Maybe we'll just start with it. Let's get
Let's
things
do it.
first.
Let's
get
do it.
right
Let's
to
get
it.
right after it.
Let's start with it because there was 3 games, and let's start with the game we were both at, and the New Jersey Devils. 6 straight wins after losing their opener on the road against Carolina. They've won their last 6. They take care of business on the second of a back-to-back against the Minnesota Wild, and Dawson Mercer with a couple of assists. Brendan Dillon with his second consecutive game-winning goal. He doesn't score in back-to-back games. He doesn't score that often to begin with, but he's got game winners in back-to-back games. Nico Daws making his first start of the season in goal, 25 saves. And you can see here the Devils looking good during this winning streak, and that penalty kill doesn't get any better than that, Mike, 21 for 21.
Yeah, PK's been really good. It's very aggressive penalty kill. They don't give a lot of time and space to their opponents. They're fast, man.
Yeah.
And when you're there in person and you can actually watch them and watch the whole ice, they play fast. And that gave a team like Minnesota a lot of trouble in the game last night. You take a look at this season where they rank just in a couple offensive categories, things like quality shots on net, top 5, rush chances, they're 6th, high-scoring team. And, you know, like, Mercer was on the third line, right? Center in the third line. They were fantastic in that game.
Yeah.
So when you get that kind of effort, you know what you're getting from your top 6 with Hughes and Hischier down the middle.
Yeah.
They're a good team, and they play fast.
It tells you when you can put a Dawson Mercer on your third line, now you got something, right? Because
Sure.
I always look at teams and I see guys who are third line players playing on the first line or playing on the second line. And I always think, boy, he'd be a good third line player. If you have a really good team, that's where he slots. And the Devils are able to do that right now because they've added some pieces. They're healthy. And that's the good news there. And Jack Hughes, how many goals do you think Jack Hughes could have scored last night? He had 3 the night before. He had a clean breakaway from like more than half the rink. He had a number of chances in the game. As you see here, longest streak of 3+ goals to start a season. The Devils moving up their own franchise list. But like he could have scored a bunch of goals again last night.
Yeah, he was dynamic. Jesper Bratt was dynamic. Mercer had an open net that he kind of flubbed on, shot it over the net as well. There could have been more for New Jersey. But Jack's looked really good, and he batted a puck down at the blue line. Remember to keep a puck in?
Another great play.
Like how? How? It's just God-given stuff, but they're a fun team.
Yeah.
Very fun team to watch.
No doubt about it. Looks like Timo Meier is more comfortable this year. He's had some injury problems in the past. He's an important player for them. And Arseny Gritsuk scored his first NHL goal, and he's someone that a lot of viewers and fans maybe haven't heard of yet. But he's a pretty good player that fits in with that kind of up-tempo game they want to play. Dougie Hamilton's been playing well on the blue line.
Yeah.
This is a good team, and they'll get Markstrom back at some point soon. I'm looking forward. They got the Sharks coming up on Friday night at home. And then on Sunday afternoon, NHL Network showcase game, the Devils are playing the Avalanche, and that'll be high-end.
Good. That'll be fast up and down the ice. And that'll be a good test for this New Jersey team because Colorado's deep, right, as we know. I think like a team like Minnesota, to me, Minnesota's got to work for its chances. They're not built to play super fast game. I just thought it was a bad matchup for them in some ways. Last game of a long road trip for the Wild. Beat Colorado and we'll really start talking because that'll be a tough one.
And it's a home and home with Colorado. They play Sunday afternoon in New Jersey. They play Tuesday night in Colorado. But again, NHL Network, Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock. Tune in for that one. We got a really good game for you. The Devils and the Avalanche. And you can see the Devils just light it up to start the season. So 6 in a row for NJ. We had 2 other games on the docket last night. And congratulations to Colton Ellis making his first start in goal in the National Hockey League, a Blues draft pick. Sorry, Kyle, our researcher, big Blues fan. Hates to see guys leave the Blues, but picked up on waivers by the Sabres. Comes in and starts last night and gets his first NHL win and his first NHL start, 4-2. They beat the Red Wings. The Red Wings had won 5 in a row. Good night for Jack Quinn, a goal and 2 assists, 3 points. Josh Dolan with another goal, and Ellis made 29 of 31 shots. So the Sabres have won 3 of their last 4, and there you can see Colton Ellis.
He had a good game. He made some nice saves in that game, and he had family there, and they were showing on the broadcast. Obviously, it doesn't get much cooler of an experience than to do that and to win a game like that. And for a team that needs it, honestly. And I know Buffalo's been playing better lately. And the first few games of their season, not only were they not scoring, like they were creating nothing. Mm-hmm. And their last 4, they won 3 of 4, but really the last 4 games, the offense has kind of found its groove a little bit. And it's an up and down team. Like, it's not like I'm going to sit here now because you won 3 or 4 and say, oh, they might be a playoff team this year. You don't know with Buffalo. You never do. But at least it looks better than it did at the start of the season. Yeah,
they got 7 different goalies under contract in their organization, and UPL is working towards coming back. And I think Alex Lyon has played well so far to start the season. He's been good, and and they've got Devin Levi still in the minor leagues, and now they bring in this young kid, and he plays well. So you just never know. I mean, goaltenders, sometimes you find somebody. This was a 3rd-round pick in 2019 at St. Louis. They liked him. They didn't want to lose him on waivers, but Buffalo grabs him up and played well last night. Good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, to do that in your first game and to play as well as he did against a team that was coming in hot.
Yeah.
We give full credit to Detroit. You want to look at, process and those kind of things with the Detroit Red Wings. They're top 5 in expected goals this year. They put a lot of pucks to the net, a lot of quality shots as well. So it's no joke to be able to keep them off the board to a reasonable degree and to win a hockey game against them right now. So hats off to the kid Ellis. And, man, Sabres fans, I talk about this so much. They're such good fans.
Oh, yeah.
They deserve.
They love the game.
Every fan base deserves. I don't like using the word deserve, but it's been too long.
Too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be something if they can get it turned around and get back in the playoffs. Whenever that does happen, it'll be fun times, certainly for Sabres fans. But for the Red Wings, they're back in action tonight against the Islanders, second of a back-to-back. I would imagine Talbot would be in tonight. Mm-hmm. Gibson played last night. They're without Patrick Kane right now, who is dealing with something hopefully minor. Didn't play last night, will not play tonight. But they got to get back on if the Red Wings are going to be a playoff team this year, right? They've won 5 in a row. Now, they had a loss last night. Go into the island tonight and get back on track. That's how you make the playoffs, is by not having long losing stretches.
Great point by you. And I think that applies especially to Detroit, who I would say is bubble-ish. And I'd probably say maybe not, but in the mix, whatever.
Yeah.
Buffalo, kind of like that.
All those teams, I always feel like, Mike, the playoffs started on opening night.
Yeah.
If you've been a bubble team, if you've missed the playoffs for years, talked about Buffalo's missed the playoffs, since the 1800s. I don't even know how long it's been.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. But those teams, Columbus is another team, the playoffs started on opening night. So Detroit, they've made some really good strides. They won 5 of their first 7 games.
Yeah. But don't lose if you're those teams. Don't get stuck on a 5 or 6 game losing streak.
Exactly.
You can't afford it.
You can't.
Other teams maybe can afford it. Yeah. Those type of teams can't for sure. So it's a great point. They're going to have to deal with this kid. He's 18 years old. Yeah. I don't know if you've heard of him, Matthew Schaefer.
He's good. He's been good.
Outrageous.
Yeah.
How good he's been. Like, I'm watching Islander games now when I don't have to, just to watch him.
Yeah.
He's
a magnetic personality. Remember, we had him at the draft, and he took note of the fact that he shook hands with everybody, even the people behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Which normally these guys don't do, which is not anything against them, but it was just something that Matthew Schaefer, that's kind of who he is. He's such a unique personality.
Yeah, and it wasn't to diminish other people for not doing it, because I'm bad that way too.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a long time. But to see him at 18 just get it, right?
Yeah.
Future captain. He's looked so good. We'll talk about him.
Yeah, we'll get to a little bit more on Schaefer and the Islanders later. But we had one other game last night, and it was out in Calgary, and the Flames desperate to get a win. It's been a tough start for them, and they end up losing in overtime. Canadians scored a tie. Bolduc's got 4 goals now, the kid they picked up from St. Louis.
Picking up right from where he left off.
Again.
Oh, now you're just poking
Kyle,
there,
right? But he scores, and then Matheson scores in OT. And the Montreal Canadiens, they're leading the division, the Devils and Canadiens, the only 2 teams in the league, are the first 2 teams to 6 wins.
Yeah.
Like the Montreal Canadiens right now.
My thought going into the year with Montreal was like, this is probably going to be the most fun team in the league to watch, because they have so much young skill and talent, but they're also going to give up a lot. And You look at their offense so far this season, they've possessed the puck in the O-zone more than any team. You think about what Demidov can do holding onto a puck, and Lane Hudson and Nick Suzuki and other guys. Off the rush, dynamic, high danger chances, goals. I could see them being top 10 in these things all year, just given who they have and how they play. And that's great. Can they keep the puck out enough? Can they defend well enough? That we're going to see. And right now, I mean, for them, it's like just get to overtime and let our kids dangle their way to an extra point. That's a recipe for the regular season for Montreal. Like Demidov, the patience that he had to make that play to Matheson in overtime was something else.
Yeah.
And on the Calgary side of it, I mean, you call them the Flames. I'm calling them the Ambers right now. They're not Flames. Not that offense.
No.
It's the offensive side of the game for Calgary right now is a huge battle. I thought Dustin Wolf's put a couple of good games together. He struggled out of the gate, but he masked a lot of bigger problems for them last year, right? Yeah. And you're starting to see, when he's not masking it, how hard it's going to be for that team. I think they're going to score more than they have right now. They're averaging a goal and a half a game. No one's going to keep that up forever. But you look at everything else there, EJ, like those numbers aren't great either.
No, and their 5-on-5 goals, I think they had the fewest 5-on-5 goals in the league, and those numbers are not great news. And, last year the Calgary Flames, it seemed like, they're in this rebuild. They're going to get a new building there at some point. They're trying to time that up, which is always tricky with some prospects they have in their system. And they've got some older players there that, they're likely going to move on from Rasmus Andersson at some point. Maybe they'll decide to trade Nazem Kadri at some point down the road. Last year, though, it seems like everything went right. Like everybody participated. Dustin Wolf was really good. And they ended up making enough points if they had been in the Eastern Conference to make the playoffs. They were in the West, and they ended up losing out on a tiebreaker at the end of the season.
Yeah.
And so they missed the playoffs. And you can see this year, it's more of a struggle. And, it doesn't, everything's not going to go like it did last year. So when you're already a team that's on that edge, sometimes you fall the other way. And I feel for them, but I just think that their management there, Craig Conroy and the coaching staff, they all understand what the situation is. So I don't think this is a circumstance where we're firing the coach, we're doing this. They're trying to get through this. It's kind of a retool, rebuild. Some of these veteran guys will be moved out. They'll be moved out for picks and prospects, and the Flames will continue to try to build from the bottom up.
Yeah, it's an excellent point, and I fully agree with you on that. And it's not their time now. And sometimes when you overachieve, like you said, and last year Wolf got them points they shouldn't have had and made it closer than it should have been, you'll come into this year and say, oh, we were right there, as a fan base maybe, and say, and they have really smart fans in Calgary. I don't think they're expecting to win a cup this year or anything like that. But they are in that middle-ish ground, which is like you almost want to be at the bottom or at the top, right?
Yeah.
Not so much in the middle.
Yeah.
I tell you one thing, like Rasmus Andersson could get something, and
for sure.
will. Given how many teams need a second-line center, and given what Nazem Kadri can do, if you ever want to go down that road, you're getting a haul, I would think, right?
Yeah,
so
they
got pieces.
Yeah, you would think so. So tough for the Flames to start the season. And Dustin Wolf, how good was he last year? He was second in the voting for the Calder Trophy. So
really good.
It was that kind of year. We'll see how things go. We'll see if they can turn it around, but it's been a tough start for the Flames. Let's get to tonight. We got 12 games on the docket, which we like, and we're even getting an early start tonight. So don't sleep on the Lightning at 6:45. ESPN Plus taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. Lightning struggling out of the gate. We'll talk a little bit about them as we move forward. We got the later games here, and Kings and Stars, that one in Dallas. ESPN Plus as well, part of that ESPN Plus doubleheader. But the one I want to circle is that Carolina-Colorado game. That it's kind of a throwback game too. I guess the Avalanche are gonna be wearing the Nordiques unit look.
Yes.
And then the Hurricanes will be wearing the Whaler look. I guess it's that old Adams division, and there it is from the Canes. Rooted in history, reborn in competition. The Whalers and Nordiques square off again. That's going to be a cool looking game. I remember a couple of years ago, the North Stars and Kings played a game with the Wild and the Kings, and the Wild wore the old North Stars green, and the Kings wore the purple. It was kind of crazy. Here's a nice look at the Nordique look.
That is clean.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm a 90s kid, so I got the tail end of these things.
Yeah.
Right? You're a little older. You saw more of the whole primes of it all.
Yes, I did.
But these are beauties.
Yeah.
And Like, I know they're the road team, but somehow get the brass bonanza going and get it in there, broadcast or something, you know.
Carolina they have 3 of these games, I think, during the season, and they'll have one at home, and they'll do the whole brass bonanza.
And I really like, though, the Avs when they did, like, it was the Nordique style, but with the Avs logo still and everything a couple years ago. That was slick, but this will be super cool. And not to I don't want to gloss over the fact, if I could handpick 2 teams to play a game that I want to see face each other right now, it's these 2 teams. Yeah. These are, to me, the best teams in hockey right now. And if you look at, there will be no time and space in this game. You look at, this is the thing about Carolina. Look top left. We can just breeze through this real quick. 4 check chances, by the way. They pressure you into mistakes, both these teams. So watch out for that. Quality shots, expected goals, goal differential. Their top 3, they're incredible. But that first one, Carolina, you go back a few years, the Hurricanes were literally the team that dumped it in the most and created the least amount of offense off the rush. Very black and white in how they did things. That has changed over the last few years, and I think it's had to for them to evolve. They actually dump it in at a below average rate now.
Really?
And they're first in rush chances. Yeah. You got Nick Ehlers there now. You think he's going to dump a puck in? And you shouldn't want him to, and they don't. But they have a little bit more skill in their lineup. And the one thing that I've heard over the years, and I've always said about Carolina, is they're a great team. I don't think they're a cup contender. Yeah. Because they had a way to play. It's a very difficult thing to beat. But if you can beat it, they don't have another answer. It's like, they got us on this thing. Let's just keep trying it.
Like the old story about Stanley Cup winners, right? They can beat you any way you want to play.
Exactly.
You want to skate with them, we'll skate with you. You want to beat you in the alley, the whole story, right?
Yes. So that was my criticism about Carolina, is I just think if you get to a team towards the end that is so good, that can do some of those things that you do so well, that also has a B and a C to their game, and you don't, you're in trouble. Yeah. Kind of bore out that way, right?
Yeah.
This team is multifaceted in how they can attack you offensively, and they still have the great defense and everything else. So Colorado's going to be a great test.
Yeah, no question. And, some interesting side notes tonight, because it's the first time Marty Necas will face his former Carolina Hurricanes teammates. He played his whole career there until the huge trade last January with Rantanen going to Carolina. He eventually went to Dallas. So Marty Necas off to a great start this year, and could be a free agent at the end of the year. We'll see if he decides to stay in Colorado.
He and McKinnon been together.
They've been awesome together, a dynamic duo. And another guy that is facing his old mates is Brent Burns. Because, he played several years in Carolina, and he's now in Colorado. So there's some nice subplots tonight.
Yeah. No, this one I'll be dialing up for sure. After I watch Matthew Schaefer play on the island, get it right into this one. Then you got Montreal-Edmonton coming up later tonight, too.
And that'll be a fun game as well.
No, it's a good night.
Company against the Canadiens. So, there's a lot on the table tonight. 12 games, a lot to choose from.
Yes. And
we're going to talk about it all as we go through the show today. When we come back, Tampa Bay Lightning. They're sitting in last place.
What?
In the Atlantic Division. That's what I said. They got to get it turned around. They're home tonight for the Hawks. We'll talk about the Bolts next on First Shift. Here's a peek at the Atlantic Division standings, and what doesn't seem right about this picture?
The bottom.
The bottom, right? The Tampa Bay Lightning sitting there in the bottom, 1-3-2 to start the season. Now, have a slow start. I think that John Cooper and those guys will figure it out, but they got the Chicago Blackhawks tonight in Tampa, and the Blackhawks have been playing some pretty good hockey lately, so that's going to be a challenge.
Yep.
What do you make of this uncertain start for the Lightning?
I think back to last year, it took Vasilevsky, and it's a different circumstance. It took him 2 months to kind of find his game. And when he found it, he was as good as anyone in the league the rest of the year. And I think Vasi will probably tell you he could be better than he's been to start this season.
But he was coming off surgery last year, right?
That's right.
And so that was the difference.
Yeah, well, now there's this year. Yeah. And it hasn't been a great start, and that's fun. So it starts there for me. Uncharacteristically, not only are they not scoring, they're not generating a ton of offense and a ton of offensive looks. And you look at just some of those kind of key categories to where they ranked per game last year. And again, it's early, but this was the highest scoring team in the league last year. That process-wise scored as much as they should have, maybe even should have scored more. And this year it hasn't been the case. They're not getting the quality, and they're not getting what they were getting off the rush either, and things like that. So it's kind of subjectively for me, I think they've really tried to show a toughness to their game early in the season. I wonder if it's gotten them away from certain things that they do really well. But they're a good team. They're going to figure it out. And they have players that are too good for this to sustain itself. So I'm not worried, but it is a little odd that the offense has kind of struggled out of the gate, both from results and a process standpoint.
Part of that might be Kucherov has missed 2 games with illness. So I mean, that's when you're missing a guy like Kucherov, who's just an amazing offensive player. That's problematic. You can see here some of the numbers for the offensive players and some big minus numbers there. But I mean, when you're trailing in games, those guys are out there. They're gonna pile up some minuses. The track record is that those guys will figure it out. But I look at the Lightning, and I look at a lot of teams. Mike, we were talking about this in the meeting and earlier today. There's so much parity in the league now. You have your top guys, and then you have like a bunch of players that like you're hoping are helpful guys for you. Look at the lineup for the Lightning. I mean, look at that bottom line. I mean, like, you know, that's like who's who? You know, who are these guys, right? So they're hoping that these guys are going to be able to contribute and be helpful players. But I don't think they're alone in that. I saw it with the New York Rangers. I see it with, quite frankly, I see it with probably 25 of the 32 teams in the league that they don't have that kind of really strong depth. And I think that when Tampa was winning cups, when you put that lineup up, you knew who everybody was. Not the case right now.
Yeah. Well, when they were winning cups, they were Florida. Yeah. They had a depth and a toughness to their team. And it's not their fault. These guys priced themselves out, and
that's right.
And
the world is
the cap was what it was then, and they couldn't keep them all. It's not because they didn't find them. That's just the reality of the situation, and it's tough. I'm not worried about them. Last year I was really high on them. I thought they were going to win in the first round against Florida. Like I really do believe in that team. I do think they probably will still, as you go later in the season, trade deadline, et cetera, benefit from bringing in another top 4 defenseman that can help them, playoffs and all that. But for now, I mean, the Cooch is, whenever you hear players get asked, who do you like to watch? They all say Kucherov, right? He's so special.
Sublime skill.
When he's not there, it makes a difference, obviously.
So we'll see if they can get it going tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks, Bedard and company.
Bedard's been fun to watch.
He's
got a little burn in his saddle or whatever the heck that expression
whatever that expression is, but he's been playing harder. He's
looked really good.
He's getting bigger, he's getting stronger, he's getting more experience, he's getting better, and the Blackhawks are playing better. We'll see how it goes for them tonight in Tampa. We got the Islanders. We talked a little bit about it earlier. You can see Islanders and Red Wings tonight at UBS Arena on the island, and Matthew Schaefer, 2 goals and 5 assists so far this season, and you know, he's looking to become the first defenseman in NHL history to start his career on a 7-game point streak, as well as the first 18-year-old defenseman to post a run of that length at any point in a season. So he has been a story for the New York Islanders.
I think this might be the biggest story in the league. And I don't know that it's talked about that way, and it's early. And the last thing you want to do is put anything on a kid to say, oh, he's going to do this or be that. He's 18. He's not going to play a minute of hockey this year when he's 19.
Yeah, that's right.
He's a true 18-year-old.
He just turned 18 in early September.
Just turned 18. Yeah. Outrageous. Where he ranks among defensemen, not rookie defensemen, not 18-year-old defensemen.
All defensemen.
All defensemen. Scoring chances per game, top 5. Snapping it around in the O-zone, top 5. Winning puck battles, top 10. Zone denial rate, killing entries into your own zone.
And that's the one that jumps out at me, because that's what you're, defending. You're telling me this kid who's, like I said, barely 18 years old.
He's squashing plays. And because he skates the way that he does, right? And he's got the reach that he has. And I'm going to do a breakdown with Rupper and the guys on NHL Now today on Matthew Schaefer. Stay tuned for that if you'd like to. But there are elements of his game that you're not supposed to be able to do as a defenseman until you probably played 200 or 300 games that he's doing now. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he has the best offensive season of an 18-year-old defenseman in the history of the game.
Wow.
And that's Phil Housley with 66 points. He could do that. Rasmus Dahlin's the closest thing in recent years. He had 44. So every other game, basically, right? Schaefer's at a point a game plus right now. Not to say he'll keep that up. And again, I don't want to put much more on this guy than he needs right now. It's just the way that he skates and plays the game. It's like he's been in the league for years and he's played 500 games. I can't remember a comparable like this at that age. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I mean, the only guy I could think of it as an 18-year-old defenseman to me is Drew Doughty. Because I remember going through the box scores when Drew Doughty was this 18-year-old in LA and going 25 minutes, 24 minutes,
Yeah.
26 minutes. And I was shocked. And I remember Ray Bourque, I think maybe I'd have to go back to it. And I don't even know. I think he was an 18-year-old. Maybe we can, figure that one out. But he's been special so far. And again, you pointed out, it is early.
Yeah.
And hopefully he's going to be able to stay healthy, stay productive, because that was my concern coming in. I voiced it many times. I would have been happier for him to take a year, maybe play college, grow, develop. He stepped in. He's been terrific. And he's one of those guys, and we've talked about it. We've talked about it several times already in this show. He is a unique personality.
Yeah.
He is magnetic. He is someone that will help sell this game to people of all types around the world because he is that much of a unique person.
Yeah.
And he's had some of these, heartbreaking experience in his personal life that his story is kind of a story that you're drawn to.
Yeah.
So we'll see how things go. It's been a great start. And listen, I hope it just continues right on until he's 40 years old and he decides maybe to retire at that point. Who knows? But he's off to a great start this year.
Yeah. And Islander fans, we know some, right?
Yeah.
They are so happy.
Yeah.
They're like, I can't believe he's ours.
That's right. They
And
go to
it's
the
great,
games.
so,
That's what they
yeah.
you go. You want to see them. They had a little other news. Elliot Friedman had a tweet about this. I thought this was interesting. Is after last night's game, this was from yesterday, a 4-3 win over San Jose. The Islanders made a change at goalie coach, and you can see Sergei Namov. Okay, I don't know if I got that right. Who was at AHL Bridgeport, has a history with Sorokin. He coached him, I think, in the AHL. Replaces Piero Greco, and Greco had been a Lou Lamoriello hire, had been with the team for several years, so he had been working with Sorokin for several years. I'll say this, Ilya Sorokin has not had a good start to the season. Now, the Islanders don't defend great in front of him all the time, but he has had a tough start to the season. You can see the numbers there, 873. I think that might be flattering with some of the goals that went in, and you can see the most high days. So, again, he's facing a lot of tough chances with an Islander team that doesn't defend well right now. But interesting, they would make a goalie change 7 games, or goalie coach change 7 games
early.
in. Yeah, why didn't you make it in the offseason?
Right. Well, that's what's interesting. I don't know the answer
I think
to
it's
that.
because they've been watching Sorokin and it hasn't gone well.
Yeah. Yeah, and if it's a guy that he knows and is familiar with, maybe he has had some say in that as well. Again, I don't know the ins and outs of that. You don't either. But I still think of Sorokin as, when you think about how many true number ones are there in the league, I think the number is probably 6 or 5 or 7.
Yeah.
It's not many.
That are going to play like those 60 games.
Give me
almost
55 plus.
Yeah.
Know what I'm getting every year.
Yeah.
I still put him in that batch.
So do I.
Right? So do you.
But it's been a struggle to start.
But it's been a struggle. So they're maybe thinking, we got to do what we can to get him back here, because if we're going to have a chance, we need him to be that guy.
Yeah.
Right?
And the general manager, again, didn't hire the previous goalie coach. And, he says, Matthew Darge says, hey, Sorokin had nothing to do with it, and maybe he didn't, but the fact is that they made the change and they brought in somebody that he's very familiar with. We'll see if it helps them. They got to try to beat the Red Wings tonight and try to keep moving in the right direction. They've won their last 3, so it's looking better for the Matthew Schaefer-led New York Islanders. Right. One other game we want to look at, also in the New York area, the Sharks and the Rangers. Sharks looking for their first win of the season. Remember, they started the season, looked like they had a win against the Vegas Golden Knights, and it just kind of slipped away, slipped through the pads, so to speak, in that one. Mackin Celebrini, of course, such a fun player to watch. I'll be going to that one tonight at the Garden, and leads the Sharks with 6 points. And the Rangers, the Sharks have had their trouble 0-4-2. The Rangers have been good on the road, but bad at home. 0-4, lost all 4 games in regulation at home, scored 1 goal on home ice. I was there for it the other night when Artemi Panarin scored, but that was it so far this season. So this is one of those games, the Rangers, Ranger fans are probably marking this down as, hey, we're going to beat San Jose. If they don't win this game tonight and go 0-5 at home, the alarm bells start going off.
Yeah, no doubt. And I was looking into the Rangers' offensive numbers at home a couple of days ago, right? Because it's such an anomaly.
Yeah.
You go 3 games with no goals, and then they score an early one, and you're like, oh, here it comes, and then that was the only one.
Yep.
It's not that bad in terms of what they're doing. It's just not going in.
Yeah.
And at some point, you have to wear that, right?
Yep.
There was a player recently that had a quote. He's like, expected goals are great, but you have to put the puck in the net.
Yeah.
That's their job.
Yeah.
And so they know that. This is an opportunity to do it. San Jose is not a great defensive hockey team.
Yeah.
They are not a great hockey team. They'll battle you, and they'll give you a game, and the Rangers should expect that, and I think they do. But, yeah, if you drop this one, especially if you don't get a couple, then it gets be a little concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
It'll be fun to watch Celebrini, though, when you're there. He's another one of those guys where when you can just watch him all over the ice, you can appreciate his game.
He has that long stick, too.
Yeah.
But he is he is going to be a terrific, terrific player for many, many years. So looking forward to seeing him tonight and seeing if the Rangers, who I agree with you, I watched the Rangers process-wise, defensively, under Mike Sullivan. They are playing much better defensively. They are not giving up all those odd man rushes that they did last year. So I think the coach is doing his job. I think the goaltender, Shesterkin, has been terrific, right? He's doing his job. But I think, again, like we mentioned about Tampa and some of these other teams, many teams, they've got a couple of guys that, supposed to carry it. And then they've got a lot of guys that, should they even be in the NHL?
Yeah, their
right?
bottom six isn't great.
Yeah, so these are the challenges right now for the Rangers. They look to get it on track, at least get their first home win tonight against the Sharks, who are looking for their first win of any kind this season.
Any kind of win will do.
Any kind of win will do. Well, the Leafs have 3 wins this year, but they also have 3 losses and an overtime loss. Steve Cooley is a little concerned, so we'll talk about the Leafs with Cooley next on First Shift. Time to get into Cooley's Cave. Yeah, Steve Cooley's joins us every week. Now, usually it's Wednesdays, but this week we had a couple of different things going on yesterday, so Steve was kind enough to accommodate us and come in on a Thursday.
Because I'm here today, let's be honest, right? Cool, you knew I was here today.
It might be.
Come on.
Yeah, I do whatever Tim and all the brass tell me to do. Obviously, even I'm out of the cave. I'm actually at work, right? Like the NHL players talk about working from home at times. But I'm here. I'm ready to talk, and we have so much to get to. It's a great time of the year, my friends.
All right, so Steve Cooley is joining us from the Sirius XM studios in Toronto. All right, let's talk about the Leafs. I mean, there's a lot going on in Toronto. Everybody's excited about the Jays. But meanwhile, the Leafs have kind of stumbled a little bit out of the gate, 3-3-1. They're playing a ton of home games. I was talking to Mike earlier, 15 out of their first 21 at home. You'd like to get some traction. They're still missing Joseph Woll. The coach says he'll be back when he's back. I don't know exactly what that means. What are your thoughts on the Leafs right now?
It has been an underwhelming start, whether it's the eye test, whether it's the underlying numbers. The real truth, one of their advantages was supposed to be with the back-to-backs having a Stolarz and a Joseph Woll, but that's gone, at least for the short term. Chris Tanev is their best defenseman. He's banged up, so he's not playing Friday. Who knows how long he'll be out with what we assume to be a head injury. And really, they've been underwhelming because they're a team that has 2 players on the first line, 2 players on the second line, a major hole in the right winger position up top, and a major hole in the second left winger position. So Tavares plays with Nylander, and Matthews plays, obviously, with Knies, and then they're looking for somebody else. And they don't have a third line. They don't have an identity. They don't have a fourth line. In fact, I could argue right now, they have 2 fourth lines. Yeah. They have 2 fourth lines. They do not have Zezel, Berg, and Osborne. So they are a work in progress. As you mentioned, the home-heavy schedule. They're going to have to make that up later on. They have no identity right now. And Austin Matthews has 4 goals, but folks, 2 are empty netters. 1 was a backdoor tap-in on a overtime goal. That's all great. But the other one was a beauty 5-on-5. He's got to make up for part of the Marner loss. So this is average to below average for the Leafs, which is a little concerning. I'm raising a Spockian eyebrow, gentlemen.
Yeah, cool. Like defensively, they look a little messy right now. And I want to ask you, though, because someone asked me this on the radio in Toronto the other day, and I want to get your take on it. They have what they have at this point, right? There's, people missing, whatever. But this is the lineup, and they can't seem to figure. They've juggled their forward lines as much as almost any team in the league. They can't seem to find anything that fits on that top line right wing spot, like you mentioned. You're the coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. What are you doing with this lineup right now that you think is their best option?
I honestly say to myself, put someone in that spot, and they have, and you're going to have to ride the wave. If it's an Easton Cowan, a Max Domi's tried it, Matthias Michelli. I also think you might have to honestly consider forming another line that you believe in. If Scott Lawton was healthy with Steven Lorentz and maybe Kelly Yarncroke, maybe that's your fourth line.
Yeah.
Maybe Dakota Joshua, and Yarncroke is your third. You got to give me something else. Max is a guy without a home right now. They've got some injuries that we've dealt with. They're not getting any help. They're not solving the Mitch Marner situation before Halloween. That's not happening. I think all options are on the table. Maybe trying Nylander up higher longer. Maybe trying to figure out Tavares with Adomi and Bobby McMahon to make it work. But clearly right now, this is what they have. This is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. This is not steak. They're not scaring anybody, and they look slow and plodding to start the year. So it's a concern, with especially the way the Atlantic is shaping up right now.
Yeah, no question about it. And just real quick, Cooley, for me, I just think they need another right shot, top six type guy. Obviously, they lost Marner, and he was that guy, right? But, like, right now, the guys they're plugging in on that side, unless they put Nylander there with Matthews and Nyes, I mean, it's left shot guys. They don't seem like they fit. How about maybe a Jonathan Marchessault later in the season? You think you could maybe pry him out of Nashville if the Predators kind of fall out of things? I mean, he might be a guy that would fit there.
Yeah, and I think you need a guaranteed top six, somebody that has won before, somebody that can bring something that the Leafs clearly don't have, and part of that would include success in the playoffs. I mean, the one criticism that's been fair is that Mitch has not delivered games 5, 6, and 7. I think that's going to change in Vegas because he's in a great spot. They do have March 6th to figure that out.
Yes.
But that's assuming, as we all have, that they'd be in the playoffs. So things will change if the numbers don't improve. But clearly right now, things are different with a weird middling start, gentlemen.
Yeah, for sure. But, you know, you mentioned it, the Atlantic Division. You wanted to talk about it. It is kind of topsy-turvy at this point. I mean, you can see here Montreal and Detroit have gotten off to good starts. Red Wings lost last night, but had a 5-game winning streak prior to that. The Panthers, with the injuries, they're still kind of hanging around in there at 4-4. And look at the Lightning at the bottom. The Senators near the bottom. The Bruins look like they're going to be in rebuilding mode. Sabres, kind of they've been playing better lately, but what do you make of the Atlantic right now?
I think anything that has to do with Montreal improving on their 91 points and making the playoffs again, which is very realistic, and they're looking very, very good. The game they lost to Toronto, in theory, were the better team, and if not for a big Stolar save, Lane Hudson came right down Yonge Street. Things could be even better in Montreal and even worse in Toronto. It's a team like Detroit. Are they going to bump an Ottawa? Are there 5 from the Atlantic and 3 from the Metro this year? If it goes Carolina, New Jersey, Washington, and that's it, then that opens another proverbial door for a Detroit. If Detroit's in, is it the expense of Ottawa? If Detroit and Montreal are for real, does it change and upset the apple cart of Florida, Toronto, Tampa Bay in any order? This is getting Yogi Berra said it's getting late early in baseball. This is getting interesting earlier than expected in terms of the top of the Atlantic, with every time Montreal and Detroit play and win. That happened last night for Montreal, not for Detroit. I love exciting change. This is exciting change. Just because you were there, it doesn't mean you've already earned and deserved your spot, guys. What do you think about the Atlantic? Because all of a sudden, I think those other teams have put the bigger notice teams early on notice with the way things have gone.
Yeah, I'm with you, Quinn. And for the longest time, it was any variation of this, but it was, you know, Toronto, Florida, Tampa Bay. It's probably your top 3. And Boston was there before that. We're getting a bit of a mixed bag now. And, like, you talk about Ottawa, they might bump themselves if they can't figure out how to score goals without Brady Tkachuk. That's a huge loss for them. Montreal, this team, to me, I think is the most exciting team to watch in the league right now.
Fun.
The way that they play, it's just like get us to overtime and let our small skill guys take over and they'll find a goal for us. So that's been a blast to watch. And I don't know about you, EJ. I do still think Tampa Bay is going to get through this start, and Vasi can be better, and the offense hasn't looked great, and they're going to get back into the mix, I think. But to Cool's point, maybe it's not going to be all of Montreal and Detroit, et cetera, but one of those is probably getting in, just based on progression.
Yeah. I think it is tightening up.
Yeah.
As from years gone by, and I think we've seen it gradually tighten up. And to Cooley's point, it may be more than just gradual this year. It might tighten up quite a bit. Cooley, let me ask you about, we're talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning. They made the big move last year. They decided to let Stamkos go. He ends up in Nashville via free agency. They bring in Jake Gensel. When you compare the two and what's gone on since then, what do you make of that?
I make that Tampa Bay had to make a really gut-wrenching, difficult business decision, not personal, and they made the right decision. At the end, when Stammer felt they just didn't want me anymore, it was true. And these numbers don't lie. And they're just simple numbers of what Gensel, younger, has been able to bring. Gensel played in the Four Nations, scored. He's going to be at the Olympics for the U.S. That was Stammer's dream, of course. You can look at his numbers a couple of years ago and say, what happens? Well, people get old, and I think what Tampa saw was 5-on-5, being more of a shooting left winger, almost like Laine in that spot, but not being able to go up and down the ice and do other things. He's got one goal this year in Nashville, and it's on the power play. You saw him not be able to handle Montreal's speed. Montreal has Suzuki, Lane Hudson, and Caulfield on the ice. Stammer's lost in that coverage, and it hasn't gone well. Not last year and not so far this year as his numbers are concerned. So I just think that I look at these two, and I always think that Julien BriseBois had to make a tough decision. He had to tell his native son it's time for a change. They moved on, and they made the right one so far. I hope Stammer gets it going and starts scoring again, but clearly 59 has found a home in Tampa. It was a tough decision, guys, but you saw the numbers. It was the right one.
Yeah, it was, and frankly, not every GM would have made the same decision. And you can maybe even argue most might not have, right? Because you're talking about your captain. I always just think about the shift when he came back and played the one shift and scored the goal in that one amazing shift when he was battling injury. And then obviously the success that he had in Tampa Bay was great, but it is a moving forward. What are we going to do now? And, hats off to Julien BriseBois. Obviously difficult. The right move, as you mentioned, right? Cool. You got the goal light ready to go. We got goals. Who's scoring tonight?
Yeah.
What do you got?
What do you got?
Well, the siren's almost sounding, so I'm going to say Cooch is back tonight.
There we go.
He's due. Speaking of Tampa, 2 points. EJ, I'm batting .667. World Series type numbers.
Hall of Fame numbers.
There you go.
Yeah, let's check back with him.
I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet.
Let's check back with him in March. A little bigger sample size.
There we go.
We need a little bigger sample size. But he's off to a good start. Cooley, thanks for the time, buddy. Have a great show, and we'll see you next week.
See you from the cave. Thank you.
All right, Steve Cooley is from Sirius XM Radio. When we come back, got a big night of games, including the defending champs, two-time defending champs, Florida Panthers, back in action tonight. Open up a 4-game homestand with the Penguins in town. We'll talk Cats next on First Shift. Down in South Florida, the Florida Panthers taking on the Penguins tonight. Here's a look at the Panthers' statistics through the first 8 games in each of the last 3 seasons. Now, they've won the Stanley Cup in the last 2 years, and you can see, while we might make a lot of their start this year being not great because they have these injuries, it's kind of about the same as they've had. The only big difference to me is their goal numbers have dropped off a bit. They're not scoring very much, at least in the early going.
To do that, missing the guys that they're missing, though, is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And Florida, the first year they got to the Cup final, they barely got in.
That's right.
They don't care about October.
Yeah.
Just don't get too far behind, right? Let our guys come back, and when we have to flip the switch, that's why I didn't think they'd win in the first round last year, because I'm like, that's a big switch to flip.
That's right.
And they just went.
They flipped it, and it made it look easy.
Yeah.
The way they did it.
They really did.
Yeah.
They really
You can see the lineup. Sam Bennett's really had a struggle out of the gate so far this year. So, but he's in an unusual role, right? That's where, Barkov being that number 1 puts Bennett in the nice spot at 2, Lundell 3. I like that Paul Maurice put Marchand back with Lundell and Luostarinen because they were good together last year. So we'll see how they make out tonight against the Penguins. I want to talk a little bit about the Penguins because they're off to a good start this year. They got that big line with Malkin, Brazo, and Mather that are playing well. Malkin has 10 points. He leads the Penguins in scoring. Their goaltenders have been good. I mean, are you seeing anything? Are the numbers telling you anything about the Penguins and why they're off to a nice start to the season?
The biggest thing I see in terms of how they're playing is they're playing faster. And that was my knock on them the last couple of years. And the roster's a part of it, obviously. But I'm like, they don't play fast. They're slow. And credit to Dan Muse, credit to the Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, Rack City up there at the top left, Ricard Raquel's been fantastic for them. Crosby and Malkin are doing their thing. Brazo's popping a bunch of goals. Kindle's been a nice draft pick where they got him, and he's looked pretty good. Novak, I've always been a believer in if he's in the right spot, and on you go. But they're first in the NHL in inner slot shots on net. They're second in the league in rush chances.
Wow.
That is not things that I would have expected from the Penguins coming into the season. So, yeah, they won 3 games in a row. Offensively, they look good. Defensively, they give up a decent chunk, but their goaltending's been really good, which is another kind of pleasant surprise, I think, if you're a Pens fan, right?
Yeah, it'll be Jari tonight against Bobrovsky, but Jari and Sheloff, so I thought was a very shrewd acquisition. Vancouver was in a situation where they knew they would lose him, so they traded him to Pittsburgh for a draft pick, and those two have played well together, both well over 900 save percentage.
Yeah. And again, Pittsburgh's a team that they're not elite defensively. Like, they're giving up some shots and some looks. Goaltending's been good. And we know what it's been like I'm glad for Tristan Jarry come out strong the way that he has. He's been fighting it for a couple of years, to be honest. So we'll see what they do. I mean, there's a lot of season left. Yeah, for sure. But I swear, Sidney Crosby, I think he's going to be a point-a-game guy until he's 50. If he
Probably. And Malkin is very motivated with the end of his contract, wants to keep playing. He's already been on the record of saying that, so that's part of it. And how about a shout-out for Ryan Shea and Parker Wotherspoon, because we know Letang, we know Carlson, but those guys are playing as much or more minutes per game, so they're getting a lot out of some guys that maybe we're not as familiar with.
Yeah, 100%. Everything's working right now, and we'll see how long it kind of continues for. But and they're also a fun team to watch again. Yeah. So good for them.
We'll see how they make out in Florida tonight. We are running out of time. NHL Now is next. Mike has got a great little spot on Matthew Schaefer. Check that out. I will see you here tomorrow. Enjoy the games tonight, everybody.